Lads, lasses, and the rest of the masses, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another installment of the Grayscale, where we'll be weighing up the good, medium, and bad things from the previous Chelsea game. And before we do that, let's do the bingo, because we did forget to do this on stream yesterday. I like to keep these in the Grayscale usually anyway, so it kind of fits that this is here. Let's just check this off, and then we can go through and talk about the game and do my points. Now, usually I will do 7 points. That's my lucky number, 7. I'm cheating a little bit this time. We're doing 9 points, but there we go. First of all, let's get the bingo card out of the way, because I think that we can tick a few of these things off. Now, as I said, this is a mixture of things that happened throughout the game and also just things that happened during my watch along. If you didn't watch my watch along, of course, it's up as a VOD. I don't know if you want to sift through the whole thing or not, but there you can go to the important parts where the goals are and things like that, and see my reaction to certain things like that. Let's start with the top left. Youth apps. We do not get a youth app, which is unfortunate. We get Mark Guiu on the bench. He is technically a young player, but he's not from our youth academy, so he doesn't count. Palmer goal/assist. We get 2 of these, so he gets this ticked off. We don't get a clean sheet. We have Mono claps and hurts his hands. Yeah, did this for Enzo Fernandez's goal. So I see that gets ticked off. Guiu app, he did come off the bench though, so we do get Guiu apps. That's 3 off the first line. Well in, we have this. You know, so I've obviously gone back and watched my watch along in preparation to see if I did any of these things. Well in, I didn't actually do this for one of the players. I'm pretty sure I did it for I did it for someone else that wasn't one of the players. I forget who. I think it was like one of the managers or like the like one of the referees or something. I did it for. Mono complains about the commentary. Yes, I did this at halftime. We actually had a bit of a discussion about it. So in the chat at halftime about how terrible the commentary is. Jackson quiets the haters. Yes, we get this. He had a pretty decent performance. He obviously gets a goal. We'll talk about him a little bit later. And on second look, yep, definitely had this. So that's another one ticked off. And then finally, we have an unlikely goal scorer. Now, I'm going to take this for Moises Caicedo because he gets the goal at the end of the game, and he is a rather unlikely goal scorer. Even though he's good at shooting and things like that, he's not typically a player that we expect us to score. That's already 1 bingo, and we're not even halfway down the card, so it's looking good for the final game of the of the season. We have a player booked for descent. We do have this. This Benoit Badiashile, I believe, gets booked for descent. Monotone Spanish. Yes, we had this. I was I was saying a few phrases last night when things were not going our way, let's say. We have Maresca ball in full flow. Yeah, we get this towards the end of the game, when Betis were kind of coming on to us and we were having to play through them and then transition through the lines to get up the pitch. We were seeing quite a lot of this. Mono swears at refs, absolutely. And we kind of can get another bingo here if we pick something for the free space. I'll come back to the free space and we'll take that off later. We have wide areas free, absolutely. Yeah, most of our goals came from wide areas and or kind of playing it down the wing, so that's good for there. We have a worldie. Now, I don't think any of the goals are particularly a worldie, because this is reserved for like very, very special goals. However, the turn from Palmer for, I believe it's Enzo's goal, is phenomenal, and I'm really tempted to give it just because the assist is so good. Sancho's goal is also good as well, so I'm gonna be cheeky and take it. We have Madueke, player of the match. Absolutely not, no. In fact, Madueke was one of the worst players on the pitch, in my opinion. We have correct prediction. Absolutely not. I got the score line, the score discrepancy right, with it being a 3-goal difference, but they scored 1 and we scored an extra 1. We have Gusto Golazo. No, this absolutely didn't happen. And again, another horror prediction there because he was utterly woeful. Mono on vacation. I don't think we actually had any camera problems, and I'm looking at my recording just in case we get one in here. No, we didn't have any camera problems, so Mono is not on vacation. We have brace yourself. This is for if anyone got a brace, and all 4 of our goal scorers were separate people, and obviously Betis's player was a 1-to-1 person. Weird sub. Is there a weird sub? I don't think there was particularly a weird sub. I would suggest that obviously us kind of going into playing Palmer as the false 9 for a bit was a bit odd, so I'll take this as well. We have obvious ADHD tick. Now, it's really funny because people watching the stream, it's probably not obvious to you, or like obvious to people in real time that I was doing this, but I've gone back and watched and it was very clear that I was stimming quite a lot. So this is being ticked off. And then we've got the set is complete for a win, and we have complete the set. Now for the free space, what I'm going to give this to is just, because this can be anything, I'm going to give it to I don't know. I'm gonna give it for the players having all of their representative flags on around them at the end of the game. I think that was quite a sweet moment, so I'm gonna take that. We get 2 bingos. We could have had a third if we got the mono on vacation here. So 2 bingos on the final day of the season is sweet, sweet, sweet for me. Now we move on to the actual bulk of this episode, and as you can see, for this very special occasion of us completing the set and getting the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Europa Conference League, I've done a special little bit of a paint job here for the Grayscale. Just one episode, just for a bit of fun. So we've got the good box in the Champions League blue, we have the Europa League orange, and obviously the Europa Conference League green. And though there is many positive things to talk about in this game, and I'm a person that always stays positive when it comes to my club, I always stay objective, and I don't like to kind of rag on my team too much, but there are a few concerning things about this performance that I will point out from this game, and that's what I'm going to get out of the way first. So we'll talk about all the negatives, then we can kind of talk about the positives. I think the first thing we want to talk about is you know what's happening, you know what's coming. As soon as I say it, it's going to be the referees. Uh, eh, Every single week I talk about these guys. Every single week I tell you that I don't want to talk about these guys. Every single week it seems like the referees just make up the rules as they go along, and in this game it was no exception. There was very, very blatant, either, I don't want to say biased refereeing, but it did seem a little bit kind of like Betis were getting things that we weren't, and you know, that type of thing. We see a lot of, for example, things where there's a lot of kind of fouls that added up that weren't given yellow cards, or there was counters that were stopped on the break that weren't given as a card, or you know, there was them kicking the ball away multiple times to stop the restart and not getting a card for it. But our player in Cole Palmer, when he did that, he got immediately booked for it. And to be fair, he wasn't even kicking the ball out to stop the restart. He was kicking the ball out because one of our teammates was injured on the floor. It was Jackson who was down at the time. So that's a bit silly. The main reason why I'm putting this in here is because this could have been a very, very good kind of like all-encompassing performance without that kind of, you know, that caveat of, oh yeah, but you conceded, if it wasn't for the referees, because we do not concede the goal that we concede if it's not for the referee completely and utterly messing up in a very, very big way. Now, we saw a few kind of, as I said, a few fouls not be given, or a few fouls be given the wrong way. For example, Caicedo getting penalised for a perfectly timed challenge is very bizarre. We saw that on the replay. We were all kind of confused as to why that was given as a foul. But the most egregious one for me is this incident that happens before they score their first goal. They score the opener, and it's that Pedro Neto is running down the right wing. He's cut inside. He's making good progress, and he's completely and utterly hacks down shin to shin. And there is no doubt about it that it's a foul. And to be honest, you could argue it's also a yellow card for stopping a promising attack. But there we are. The referee decides that eyes are not a thing that he can use in this game, and decides to let them play on, and they go up the other end in about 60 seconds later and then score. And it's just one of those things where, like, if we have a free kick up the other end of the pitch, that doesn't happen, and we probably get a clean sheet here. And obviously we saw how good we were in the second half. We probably could have made it even more goals, to be fair, but maybe hindsight's 2020, but maybe we could say that without them scoring first, we wouldn't have had the motivation to get those extra goals. But you never know. But yeah, just kind of pathetic from the referees in that game. And the thing which is really funny is that the refereeing became a lot more balanced, let's say, as soon as the game was out of sight for Betis. As soon as we went 3 goals up, or rather 3-1 up, the referee started giving us things which they weren't giving us earlier in the game. It was almost like they had kind of accepted that Betis weren't going to win the game and that they should stop helping them out. I kid, of course, but it was quite ironic. The only other thing I'm going to be putting in the bad box today, and the thing which I want to rip the band-aid off and talk about the bad so I can talk about the goods later, and it is unfortunately for Malo Gusto. And I don't want to talk about Malo Gusto and single him out as the only player that played bad, because there were a few bad performances here. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think Madueke had the greatest kind of game. I don't think Neto had the particularly greatest game at times. I think Badiashile was pretty good for the most part, but had a few dodgy moments, you know, that type of thing. Gusto, though, was the glaringly obvious underperformer in this game, and it's the reason why I single him out specifically. Because not only did he just completely not look right in the role that he was playing, as he hasn't throughout the whole season, But again, it's the fundamentals that he doesn't have to kind of he doesn't have to change the fundamentals to play in this new position that he just seemingly doesn't have. He messes up his pass in the midfield to give the ball away to Isco, I believe it is, who gets the assist for their goal. And yeah, not only does he give the ball straight to them from a stray pass on his weak foot for some reason, he doesn't need to play the pass. He's kind of trying to force it a bit too much. But also just the fact that when the ball does get turned over and it does go towards our own goal, he just doesn't track the man that gets the ball, and it's very poor defending from him in general. And as I said, if without that, maybe if he defends this better, maybe if he doesn't give the ball away, maybe if the referees do their job and don't cause this attack to happen, maybe we don't get that blemish on our record here, and we could have had a much better scoreline. But unfortunately, that's not the case, and we have to put Gusto in the bad box for that. But that's enough of the negativity for this episode. We're going to be celebrating because this is a monumental occasion in history. This is a football history that has been made here in the fact that Chelsea are the first and only team to ever have won all three of these competitions and all UEFA major competitions. So big reason for us to celebrate, and we're going to do that by talking about some of the players. I think that we're going to I'm going to kind of go through the players that I think deserve a mention specifically, but I'll be kind of going through the ones that don't have as much of a kind of things that I want to say about them first, just to get them out of the way. I think the first one to talk about is Jadon Sancho. I think that he had a very good cameo off of the bench, considering Madueke was playing on the left hand side for 65 minutes around there, and he basically did absolutely nothing all game. And Sancho comes on and not only is a bit more direct and wants to take on his man a bit more, but gets a very, very good goal towards the end of the game as well. He scores the third goal, I believe. And yeah, I always say if you get a goal contribution, you likely end up in this box. Sancho, I have made an exception for to put him in here because and kind of add an extra point in because I felt like he needs to be mentioned for his good cameo off the bench. And considering who he's kind of being evaluated at the moment for whether we're actually going to keep him for next season or not, and there's obviously a lot of talk about us bringing in a new left winger. There's talk around Mudryk. We don't know if Mudryk's going to be staying here or if he's going to be shipped off because of his ban. We don't know the kind of result of that yet. His future is kind of up in the air at the moment, and it's kind of sad because they say like you shouldn't fall in love with a lone player, but I have really grown to like Jadon Sancho. He's very obviously clearly kind of liked in the dressing room too. We saw nice interviews, kind of or like kind of social media messages with him and Noni Madueke and things like that, and it's nice to see him kind of getting on with everyone. As I said, it's not a thing that you need to get, like, you should try not to get attached to lone players, but he has been pretty good for us in moments this season, and I feel like he can grow into an even better player because he is still young. He's not anywhere near past his prime yet. He's going to be still playing at a high level for multiple years to come, I would imagine. It would be kind of a shame for him to be sent back to United into such a toxic atmosphere when we're in such a positive one. So hopefully we do keep him. I think 25 million for him is very decent business, specifically because he's going to be a rotational player, and that's not too much for a rotational player. But yeah, very good of performance from Sancho last night, and yeah, he has to get in here because of it. Now, the next player that I'm going to be putting in here is in here for the exact same reason, and it's for Nicholas Jackson. I said I was going to talk about him earlier, and I'm putting him in here not only because he gets his goal, but because I specifically pointed him out as a player that really needed to prove himself today after he got his suspension and he had quote unquote let his team down, which I still don't believe, but that's kind of the narrative going into this game, is that he'd let his team down in the run-in. It was really up for him to kind of say, you know what, no, I'm not going to be ridiculed like that. I'm not going to be kind of spoken about that, and to prove the kind of haters in a way wrong. And he does that in a big way in this game. I think that not only does he get the goal, and it's a very funny one because it bounces off his chest and deceives the goalkeeper, but I love his movement to get to the front post. Obviously, Palmer's playing the ball in there because he knows that Jackson's going to make that run. It's something that we've asked for Jackson to do a bit more, and he hasn't really done very often, is to kind of make those movements into the right areas when balls come in and get on the end of things. And he did that yesterday and gets his goal. But the thing which I also want to talk about is the fact that I think his hold-up play specifically was pretty good in the game as well. He was playing up against two centre-backs, Nathan specifically, who was a bit more aggressive and a bit more kind of, you know, boisterous and wants to put himself about. And he was doing well at kind of retaining the ball at times when it was played into him from long balls, which he the game in general was quite scrappy in the midfield, especially when it went long from either their goal kicks or Jurgensen clearing it or Trevor Chalobah playing it up high because he was clearing quite a lot of the time. I'm going to give a shout out, by the way, to Trevor Chalobah. I think he played excellently, but he's not going to be one of the points I talk about today, unfortunately. Just felt like I'd give him a shout out. But yeah, when those balls kind of went into the air and it was being very contested and kind of feisty in that midfield area, Jackson was stepping up a little bit in trying to win those and kind of get us back on the ball. And that was really, really important, specifically in the second half when we needed to get a bit more control of the game and kind of get back into it. He kind of contributed quite well, and obviously he gets the ultimately he gets the winner here, because regardless of the 2 goals that go in after his is the goal that kind of decides whether we win this game or draw this game, and it goes into extra time or what have you. We could have possibly lost if he didn't get this goal. We never know. But yeah, great showing from Nico. Hopefully he can take some more confidence from that performance into next season and into the Club World Cup that is coming up very shortly as well. The next point that's going to go into this good box is a joint point for our captains, as I like to call them, Reece James and Enzo Fernandez. Now, I think that these two had a real big impact on the game, specifically in the second half. Now, as I said, we had a very poor first half, but the second half was much better because I think that these two kind of, they kind of connected to each other and said, right, we're winning this game. And it starts off with Enzo getting his goal. Obviously, it's fantastic work from Palmer to get the assist for Enzo, but it's that box crashing run that we've seen from Enzo Fernandez so many times this season that Enzo Maresca has brought out of him, and it's such a good sight to see him continue to do that, continue to get goals and assists and things like that, and kind of improve upon his game. He gets the equalising goal here, and it's such an important equaliser at such an important time, because if we don't get this equaliser as early as we do, we probably might capitulate. We never know. We might not have been able to get back into the game, and this kind of really lifted our spirits. And it's the celebration that you see from Enzo and James when they're kind of going back to their own half after this goal. They're firing each other up, they're slapping each other, like yelling at each other. They put their foreheads together like they're brothers in arms, and it's really nice to see because, again, we kind of saw it from the interviews. James was asked about how he kind of motivated the team and how he was able to, talk to them in the dressing room and get them G'd up for this, because obviously he came in after the halftime whistle, so he was in the dressing room at halftime giving instructions and things. And I think that these two have really stepped up in recent times and kind of proven that despite their age, they are both very young, they can be leaders on the pitch. And I think that Enzo leads from example by being the one that puts himself about. And again, this isn't just for his performance and him getting the goal. I think his work ethic in this game was phenomenal. He was all over the pitch. Probably covered about the same amount of grass as Caicedo, to be fair to him, and obviously getting up further and kind of, getting into the kind of dangerous positions and things like that. James, of course, again, very solid from him as soon as he came on in terms of an actual defensive performance. He got basically completely shut down the left winger that came on, because obviously Ezazuli came off for an injury, and they brought on Rodriguez. And Rodriguez is, despite him being a young kid, he's only 19, I believe, he's very quick and he's very tricky, and he could have caused us some issues, but James completely locked him down, as we often see from Reece James do to wingers. It's a common thing where James try and get past him, it doesn't happen. And he looks in the best shape of his career. He says he feels the best he has in a long time. So long may that continue. And our two captains kind of motivating us to push on and be more hungry and, get back into the game and eventually win the game is why they are both in this box. Now, I briefly mentioned him there, so he's going to be the next player that goes into the box. And you know who it is. It's Moises Caicedo. I said this on stream, and I say it every single time I put him into one of these boxes. I run out of superlatives to talk about this man. He's just phenomenal in every aspect of the game. There is not a single part of the game that he's not good at. He is great at shooting, he's great at passing, he's great at defending, he's great at going forward, he's great at, intercepting things, he's good at tackling. There is not a single weakness in his game. He's even good in aerial duels, which is funny considering he's not even the tallest. He was winning so many aerial duels in this game. Obviously he had a very difficult task in terms of trying to keep Isco quiet in this game. Because obviously Isco is a player that likes to kind of drift across the pitch and, prop up in random positions all over the kind of that central area. And Caicedo was doing a decent enough job to kind of stop him from being comfortable on the ball all the time. And yeah, again, another phenomenal performance from him, just pretty much winning everything. And then, of course, he gets the late goal as well in the 90 plus 1 minute goal, which again, it just solidifies how good he is. And the celebration you see from the Chelsea players, it shows that they all believe as well as what I believe is that he deserves those kind of moments, because he's an unsung hero. Obviously, he's our player of the season, and everyone now recognizes how good he has been. But there has been very big doubts about Caicedo in his first season. He was called a £100 million flop, and nowadays no one mentions his price tag because he lives up to it every single time he's on the pitch. He is one of the best players that always gives us maximum effort anytime he's out there. As I said, he's just phenomenal. I always forget. I always just don't know what to say about him, because there's not a single thing that I could say about him that would do it justice of how good he plays. And in a big game like this, to play as well as he did, and then eventually get a cherry on top goal, phenomenal. He has to go in here. The next point is for a player that you all know is going in here, and it's for a player that I really, really wanted to perform well in this game, and he decided to turn up. It's Cole Palmer. Now, I spoke about this game in my preview, and I said that Palmer needed to be a player that really stepped up and kind of showed that he is who he is, right? He's been having this sketchy patch, and even though he's been playing decently, he's not been getting the goals or assists, and people will discredit him for not producing as much as he kind of has been in recent times. But he really decided in this game that enough was enough, and that he was just taking the game by the scruff of the neck and winning the game for us. And it's funny because there's a clip of me saying at half time, I'm not worried that we're 1-0 down, because we'll get a bit of magic from someone like Cole Palmer, is the exact words that I said. And we get 2 moments of magic from Cole Palmer, 2 brilliant assists. The first one to Enzo, very, very good, of course. The one to Jackson, that kind of link up, we've seen them combined so many times. Yeah, phenomenal. And in general, I felt like his play yesterday was overall very good, in terms of him trying to get on the ball and make things happen, even when the team wasn't playing particularly well. And that's not even mentioning the fact that he was putting himself about the whole game, being one of the leading pressers in the team. We know he's good at doing that and closing people down. But yeah, being one of the leading pressers when we go into that 4-4-2 defensive shape, and even towards the end of the game, when obviously he had to play in that false 9 role, I felt like he played pretty well there until he eventually got moved away from there. But yeah, again, he wins us the game because he completely changes the game. He turns the game on its head with just a tiny bit of special kind of magic that only Cole Palmer could really produce. It's the type of performance that he kind of thrives for, and I believe he's become the only player now to get 2 assists in a major European or UEFA competition final, which is another accolade for him. He obviously gets player of the match officially, and he had that in his shorts when he was collecting the trophy and the medals and stuff, which I felt quite funny. He is so nonchalant about everything, and his interviews are hilarious, because he just does not give the interviewers any kind of anything to go off. He's just like, yeah, I don't know. And I love that about him. I love a player that doesn't he even though he's got this aura about him of him being this superstar player, he is such a normal bloke, and that's part of the reason why I love him. And yeah, he wins us this game hands down, so he goes in here for the good box. And now there's a final point that I'm going to do here, just as a cherry on top. And I mentioned him last time I did one of these. I'm going to mention him again. It's Enzo Maresca. He has exceeded my expectations this season, and I spoke about this on Twitter, but he's come into this team and he has made this young group of inexperienced players that no one gave a chance to get into the Champions League spots or to win anything this season. He's taken those criticisms of our team and completely blown them up. Look, he's completely thrown them away, and he has made our team into not only a collective that is to be kind of feared in a way, because we have been playing very, very well recently, but also a team that is very coherent, and a team that is definitely one for the future and will only get better with time and investment. I said at the start of the season, when he was appointed, that my minimum expectation for him was that I wanted him to get top 5 and a cup. And he's gotten top 4 and a cup, exceeding my expectations, but not only exceeding my kind of, bare minimum expectations in terms of that, but exceeding the expectations in terms of him managing the squad and, you know, keeping all the players happy and managing different competitions and, as I said, being able to just keep players fit and happy is a thing that is very difficult to do, and he's done that very, very well this season. In terms of this game specifically, I want to give him a lot of credit because, as I said, again, in that same clip that I spoke about earlier when I talked about Palmer kind of making a bit of magic or whatever, I was speaking about how Maresca always has good halftime team talks and he always has better second halves. It's something that he has made quite common in his kind of games now, that if the first half doesn't go well, the second half absolutely does. And it's a credit to him, the fact he's able to get those responses from his team. He's able to take a game that looked very poor, where we looked very lackadaisical and we looked very off the pace in the first half and we were 1-0 down and looking likely to lose it, into an absolute demolition job in the second half where we score 4 goals and it didn't even look close. And it's crazy because it's a manager that everyone has basically said is completely useless. They've said he's a championship manager, that he can't win anything. He's finally proven them wrong. He's won a trophy. He's gotten us up into the top 4 where we can compete for more trophies, and we've still got the Club World Cup to come as well, which we could also add to our cabinet if we win that, which would be nice. And I think the thing that kind of sums it up and it sums Enzo Maresca's tenure so far up for me is that, again, as I've put here, he has brought the heart back into this team. He's brought that kind of positivity and that kind of, you know, belief in the team that we can win things, that this team is going somewhere. And all the people that kind of doubted him earlier in the season and said that he was not going to do anything, he's proven them all wrong. All the people that kind of stuck by him, he's proven them right, and I'm one of those people, and it's nice to see my faith in him kind of, you know, the fruits of that labor being kind of shown. And yeah, it's just a good positive atmosphere now around the club, which there wasn't at the start of the season, and there wasn't, you know, halfway through the season when we had a small patch of poor form. Like, a lot of people, even now after we've won this competition, there are still a few people that have those doubts, but a lot of them are gone now. And that kind of togetherness that our fan base has never really had in the last kind of 2 or 3 years, where everyone's been infighting and saying, "Oh, Poch is better than Maresca," and, you know, "Oh, we should never have sacked Lampard. We should have done this. We should have done this." And there's the two kind of butting heads constantly in our own fan base, and Enzo Maresca is slowly but surely making those two sides one of the same. And we're only going to benefit from a positive atmosphere, not only in our own home stadium, but around social media. And as I said, these are all young players. They see messages online, they see the kind of, you know, the negative reaction that happens. And for him to try and get rid of that and kind of build this positive kind of mentality around the club will only make us better and will only push us on to bigger and better things. And those are my points. If you think that I've missed anything, let me know down in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave it a like, it really helps out the channel. Subscribe for more videos like this. Of course, I'll be covering the Club World Cup, I'll be covering the transfer news during the off season, and obviously covering pre-season when that rolls around too, so there's a lot more content to come. Thank you guys so much for watching as ever, and remember, football can be as simple as black and white. Come on, you blues.